Welcome to Bleav In 76ers with your hosts, former 76ers point guard Eric Snow and two Sixers fanatics in Marcus and Teja Dash. Bleav In 76ers is presented by BetOnline.AG.
BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use promo code BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Bleav In 76ers podcast. I'm Marcus Dash here with legendary 76ers point guard Eric Snow. My brother, Teja Dash. Guys, the season comes to a close after a tough Game 6 loss to the Knicks last night. Obviously, lots to get into with how the series went, how the game went. But, you know, I have a different feeling about this game. Yeah, I'm sad about the loss, but we'll get into it during this episode, but I have a feeling of like kind of an optimistic feeling going forward after that loss, where in years past, I'm just kind of like, there's kind of like a mystery that goes on after a loss where I kind of know where we're headed in a way. But I don't know if you guys share the same feeling of optimism after a loss last night.
No, I don't share that.
All right. I like this. It's going to be an interesting conversation today. Tej, do you share that feeling or no?
I'm not a big moral victory fan personally. So basically what we're saying is this giant moral victory of the season. But I've definitely felt worse coming off postseason exits before. I'll put it that way.
Okay, so we'll get into it with our first topic then. All right, so obviously we lost. It's never easy to lose and get eliminated. I'm feeling a little hurt today, knowing that we don't have Sixers ball anymore this season. But I just want to know what your guys' instant reactions are from the Game 6 loss, and just kind of as a series as a whole. What are your reactions to everything that went on over the last couple of weeks?
Well, for me in this series, we were outplayed, outcoached, and they played tougher. That's what it was to me. So we can pinpoint each individual player or each other situations, but at the end of the day, that's what it was, because we're a better team than that team, even without a healthy Joel. I mean, they had arguably with a guy that used to be their number one player, they were out without their number two player the whole series.
Yeah.
So you can say whatever you want to say about them playing better without him. At the end of the day, he wasn't there. So that's like us playing without Maxey. So you can look at it that way. And then they had another player that was probably their sixth man. They didn't play. And they beat us with 7 guys on our court.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Let's stop making excuses.
Yep. It's brutal. Oh, it hurts.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it doesn't hurt.
7 guys, man. But we can't blame Doc anymore. So it's the last time we probably can blame Tobias too. So so say whatever you gotta say. But at the end of the day, like, that's, to me, you can talk about all you want to talk about. They outplayed us, outcoached us, and they played tougher. They were smaller than we were. Across the board. So, but yet we couldn't stop them from getting offensive rebounds.
No, couldn't. All series.
Yes. Yeah.
All
and
series.
Games coming down to 1 or 2 possessions. 1 or 2 possessions. We let one guy just dominate because we didn't have anybody that could guard Jalen Brunson. We didn't have anybody that can guard him, and we didn't have a scheme that could slow him down. So that's on the players and the coaching staff. The management too, if you want to say, maybe Melton would have been that guy if he was healthy. Maybe he wouldn't have been that guy. But you got to have somebody else in there.
Yep. Yeah, it was brutal. Guess instant takeaways from that game, a series. Echoing what he said, I had notes. New York was the better team, even though we had more talent. And by that, I mean they played just much more like a team. They had an identity. They had a team. They had a more of a game plan. I feel like we were still figuring it out on the fly. And part of that's because, Joel was out for so long. And when he came back, he played with 5 new players. And they were getting to know each other in a playoff series. So that doesn't help, but still, it hurts to lose a series when you're the more talented team. Rebounding was embarrassing. I mean, I've never yelled get up and rebound more in my life at a screen before. Every single play and 50-50 balls, we never, 50-50 balls were 70-30 balls for us. We weren't getting any of those. I'm not going to question effort, but there were balls I thought that were in certain players' reaches. I think we just didn't get. Considering that, it was the best series of the first round, by a large margin. I wish we would have gotten a game 7 out of it. Every game was just suspenseful, and one thing that killed me too, and Tibbs did a great job calling timeouts. He had great sets after timeouts. He called them at the right time. I give him credit for that. Every time we go up by 10 points, and to be honest, both teams did this, so I won't just say it was just us. But every time we went up by 10, man, we wouldn't extend it. It would go right back to a 4-point lead. They would get it right back to a manageable position again. We were right. Even yesterday, we were oh, man, it was 10 points. I think it was 81-71, I believe. And we were right there about ready to pull away a little bit. And then, boom, we called a timeout after they made it 81-77. And it was back to it being a 2-point. And it happened to them, too. They went up by 8 with 3 minutes left, 2 minutes left. We tied the game up with 40 seconds left. So, but it felt almost like a college basketball game, especially with all the fouling at the end. The runs were just so dramatic, but one way, then the other way, then the other way. And they just had the last run in most games. Inconsistent calls. I'm not going to blame refs. And I want to get your take on this, especially Eric, because I did some deep diving into the rule changes that happened a couple of years ago. And I've gotten into arguments with New York fans about this, and we always come to a stalemate where there's not a good explanation. So one of the rule changes, and this is 2 particular plays, the one where Brunson got fouled by Oubre, who got headbutted, and the one where Batum fouled Oubre, got headbutted. The rule change, and they definitely called this differently with Trae Young, especially. An offensive player either abruptly goes sideways into a defender. Okay, he wasn't doing that. This is the part. Or simply stops in front of him, giving the defender nowhere to go but running into the offensive player. That should be an offensive foul in the rule book. Now, to me, my non-playing eyes, that's what it looked like. He had him on it right behind him. He turned around, knew they were there. He stopped and shot the ball. And then in that process, Batum's head gets hit from his face because he's, like it says, or simply stops in front of him, giving the defender nowhere to go other than running into the player. That's what it looked like that happened to Oubre and Batum. What do you think about that?
Well, it's one part that you said afterwards, but the rule doesn't say. The rule says you can't stop. It doesn't say you can't stop and shoot.
A stop and
that's
pop.
Where it's different. Stop and shoot.
Okay.
You can't never tell a guy that's driving he can't stop and shoot the ball. So he's stopping to shoot. That's the difference. That rule was for people when they were 70 feet down the court and then they dribble and then you try to stop. Because I used to do it. You stop and have a guy run behind you, a big guy run behind you where he can't stop and you get a foul.
Yeah.
That's what that rule is for. That rule isn't for driving to the basket, you at 15 feet away and you stop and you get a guy to hit you while you're shooting. That's not what the rule is for.
Okay.
The rule is for guys jumping sideways in a inadequate or awkward shooting motion. But what he did wasn't an inawkward shooting motion. He just gets the guy on his hip and the guy can't get to the side or don't get to the side and he just stops and you run into him and shoot and you get hit. He was doing the same thing Maxey does.
But Maxey
does it better.
Maxey doesn't get those calls though.
He does it more under control. And he does it because he does it more under control. Maxey flops and takes himself and falls. So it looks like he's floppy. Brunson shoots the ball, then falls.
Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad you say he falls because Brunson falls more than I've seen. And I watch Embiid. Brunson might fall more than Embiid do.
He shoots the ball, then falls. Maxey falls while he's trying to shoot.
That's a good take. That's a good take. I like that. Yeah. And I think he needs to play through that contact more rather than just like expect the fall to be the fall.
Yes. Get hit, then play through it a little more instead of like some of it, especially now in the playoffs, we've seen throughout this whole playoffs, and not necessarily our series, but if you watch other games, you'll see them not calling a lot of that stuff that was called during the season.
Yeah. But not for everybody though. That's my problem. It seemed like everyone got playoff calls, but Brunson still got regular season calls. That's the problem I have with it.
Yeah, but Brunson also had 40 touches. So you have way more touches. You have way more paint touches. You're gonna get more calls. Like I didn't have an issue with anything that Brunson got. He didn't have any more free throws than Joel had. They were all around the same, right or wrong, in his last game.
I wouldn't compare those two though, right? I'd compare him to Maxey because they're
no. I'm not saying. I'm just saying in general. I'm just saying in general they had around the same amount of free throws.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but I'm just guessing.
I don't know the exact number, but
it feels that way. It feels that way.
Yeah, it was like for the series, it was like 63-74, I believe.
Yeah, I was just talking about more in Game 6 in particular.
16-13. He had 3 more. Close though.
That's what I'm saying. It felt like it was, similar. But at the end of the day, we can't talk about calls because referees don't have anything to do with us not being able to guard him in pick and roll, us not being able to know when to double team him, us not him getting clean looks at the end of the game. So that has nothing to do with refereeing. So you take some calls that he got, and I guarantee you it wouldn't come up to 8 to 10 points of the 40 in 3 straight games that he got. He got 40 in 3 straight games. We can't be talking about that's not refereeing because that's 3 different sets of referees in those 40-point games.
Yeah. It's not necessarily the Brunson calls I get upset with. It's that Maxey had 0 through 3 quarters. They have a similar enough playing style to have one guy to not have 16 and one guy to not have 4. That's a big disparity.
The big difference is what they've got you all thinking is that the mid-range shot is dead, and Jalen Brunson just beat us with a mid-range shot in a series. Maxey shoots 3s or to the rim. And what they did, and that's why I'm saying the coaching mattered, they made a huge adjustment on Maxey. They double-teamed him on the perimeter, and they brought an extra defender at the rim because he never passes it when he gets to the rim. So he always played in the crowd. So from a referee's perspective, you seeing the guy that's taking a bad shot or a forced shot more so than getting fouled because he played in the crowd. In Game 6, maybe if we'd have won that game, he would have been able to see that film and make the correction.
Yeah.
But there was no in-game adjustment in that, either from him or the staff telling him. There was no staff. Nothing that he got looked easy.
No, oh my God, no. It was really.
He got to get to the point where
he's not easy. He looked
like that.
hard.
He got to go and shoot a 12-footer.
Yeah, it looked hard.
He got to go and take a 12-footer over trying to go to the rim when they're bringing that extra defender, or you got to pass the ball.
Or stop, let the defender run into you and shoot the ball and go to the free throw line 28 times.
But you got to be willing to shoot a mid-range shot to do that.
Do you also think that Maxey's speed works against him a bit?
That's what I'm saying. So we talk about, that's what I'm saying. Like Jalen Brunson was stopping and getting fouled, but he was also stopping and popping us in the eye with that shot when he wasn't getting fouled.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Now, I don't know if you heard this. Do you think Maxey's speed works against him in that regard? That it looks like he's more out of control than he is?
No. No one was faster than Allen Iverson, and he shot mid-range shots.
I'm not talking about the shot part. I'm talking about the getting calls part, because refs tend to not call it if you're out of control, right?
Yeah, but I mean, speed is one thing, but a lot of times like I say, I just think that he played in the crowd this last game. He played in the crowd, and he's done it before, but more in game 6, he kept pressing it because he was pressing. Because the urgency was higher. So he started pressing, and we were down, and he never made an adjustment to how he was being played.
Yeah.
They were sending the extra defender to him. And Joel, maybe because of his injury, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt on that, never rolled to the basket when Maxey drove. And they knew that. Yeah. So you can send an extra defender because you don't have to worry about offensive rebounding, because our biggest guy, our best offensive rebounder, isn't even going to the boards unless he's already down there.
Can't move. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. That's a strategic game plan. So you think of that now you look at the strategic game plan was on Maxey. That second half, they doubled Maxey more than they doubled Joel.
I know. Yeah. That's what you and I were texting about. I was like, their emphasis is on Maxey this game. It's not even on Joel.
Because Joel is, how can I say it? He was more predictable because of his circumstances. So you kind of know there's really no need to double Joel unless he was down low. And the only thing that was going to stop him from doubling him if he was down low was when Buddy Hield was in the game. And we decided not to play him in the third quarter after he had 17 points in the quarter.
Yeah. And
you correct me if I'm wrong. Out there just to see what happens.
Yeah, I know. And correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure Embiid's worst quarter was the fourth quarter. So in New York's mind, it was, let's just keep it close to the fourth quarter, and then we can win this game and just take the game away in the fourth. Because if we double Maxey and Embiid doesn't have a 15-point fourth quarter, we're going to win. And you know what did Embiid have? Like 4 points.
Well, I mean, they also know that he's been tired every fourth quarter. He's been tired every fourth quarter.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's because he's bad at fourth quarters. I'm just saying there's a reason.
Yeah. So he's been tired. So offensively, he's pretty much stayed around the top of the key, free throw line to the top of the key. And defensively, he's dropping in on all pick and roll. So they know with Brunson, they're going to get a shot. Brunson's going to come off and make a play, or somebody's going to help. They'll kick it or swing to somebody. They know they're going to get a shot. We are, and I took a picture of it. Like we were guarding Brunson off of like 5 feet off of him, but still chasing him off the pick and roll. Like I don't know how that's possible. So if you go back and you look at the second half or the fourth quarter, and you look at how when our guys went over the pick and roll. Offensively, their guys were attached and they were closer to us and chased us over. Yeah. We had Batum playing off of him. And then he dribbles over the pick and roll, and then they go over the top instead of going under. And I understand why you don't want to go under a pick and roll, because you go under, they rescreen. Now he's coming off with a cleaner look from three. But you chase over the top because you're trying to get him to take mid-range shots because Joel was dropping. But he's making those shots. That's how he's beating you.
I know.
So you got to do more to take the ball out of his hands, or you got to do more to just switch. We had no answer for him, no answer. So you got to do something. If the pick and roll happens, run another defender up there and just switch it, and let Joel rotate out to a wing. Like, do something different. Put Joel on Josh Hart, and put somebody else and just switch it. Something different. Change it up, trap it, rotate, full rotate. Do something other than just let him come down and let's see if he makes it or not.
Why not give him the three more often, though? He only shot 30% from three in that series. He wasn't like killing us at three.
That's what I'm saying. Like
yeah. Why not go into the pit?
A lot of times I look at how, and I don't know this for certain. This is just sort of my opinion. Is in being around it, like some of these teams, because they offensively they want you to shoot threes and not mid range. They actually coach defensively for you to play the same way. But if you look year after year after year in the playoffs, the teams that are winning championships are making mid-range shots.
Yeah,
they're getting them at mid-range shots. Denver Nuggets, mid-range shots. Milwaukee Bucks, mid-range shots. Golden State Warriors, mid-range shots. They'll have you think otherwise, but they were one of the leaders in mid-range shots. Toronto, when they won, mid-range shots.
Yeah.
How much further do you want me to go back?
Yeah. Cleveland,
when they won, that's LeBron's game. LeBron makes threes, but that's not his game.
Yeah.
That's what everybody's doing. So they have you fooled with that you got to guard this 3-point line. Like, you got to be able to guard, man. Have people in front of you Jalen Brunson had us on the yo-yo, man. That was straight art. It didn't matter who was guarding him. He had something for you. Didn't matter who it was. So
yeah.
And that was the part that was like Nurse started wanted Kyle to be in there, but if Kyle isn't scoring and he's not guarding Jalen, you got to do something different.
Yeah.
So now we have Batum wasn't brought in to guard a point guard.
No. I think he did a decent job for being completely outmatched. I mean, he shouldn't have been guarding him that much.
Did a decent job of what?
I mean,
he had 3 straight 40-point games.
Yeah. Yeah.
3.
He shouldn't be
3 straight 40-point games. That's my point. That's why I'm saying I'm not talking about any one player in particular. I'm talking about the team and the staff. I'm saying the team didn't have anybody that could guard him, and the staff didn't have a scheme that could guard him.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just a bad combination. But it's Jalen Brunson didn't average 40 during the season, so he was above average.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. He was above average.
Yeah. We did such a good job the first 2 games, though. 8 for 29, 8 for 26. Was he just off, you think? Or did we do something different from there on out?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, so if you watch those games, if you ever get a chance to rewatch them or rewatch the highlights, a lot of those shots were wide open shots he was missing.
So he was just off.
Yes. He was
missing. He also played less those
shots.
Games.
He was missing open shots.
Yeah. He played a lot less too. 38 and 41 minutes.
This is also what happens when you don't win game 2. You took a lot of pressure off.
Yep.
So for him to play that way, shoot that way, and still still be okay. Come on, man.
Yeah. I mean, those first 2 games, he averaged like 39 minutes. After that, he averaged like 48 minutes, for pretty much the entire game, like 47 minutes, because you include the overtime game. But even with that, he only sat like 2-3 minutes after that. So they were like, you know what? We're up 2-0. We got to close these guys out. All right, Brunson, you're not coming out anymore, man. You're playing almost every minute of these games except for like 2. And even when he came out the last game, we made our run instantly. It was like the reverse Embiid for them. The moment Embiid comes out, most teams make their runs. The moment Brunson was out, we made our run. Crazy.
Yeah.
They still have contributions from DiVincenzo and McBride even last night when Brunson came out for a little bit.
Yep.
Kind of piggybacking off that topic there. So obviously seasons come to an end. Different teams, different expectations. But how would you guys compare this elimination to previous seasons? I know I took it as an optimistic kind of thing in the beginning of the show, but how would you compare this elimination to eliminations past?
I think for me, the expectations with Joel being injured were lowered. The expectations of his sort of quote unquote timeline are still there and still high. But I think with the way with the way the season started with James and then the trade and then him being injured and not really being himself, kind of lowered the expectations on this season. Knicks was just a team that we felt we still could beat. But you still have to look at the way things were going, the way he looked when he came back. It was hard to believe that we could win a championship, that he could go and play 4 rounds and win it. So that lowered my expectations for a championship. But I still felt we could win this series. I still felt we were the better team. So it is disappointing because I felt that we played in the series where I felt we were the better team, but we still lost 2 home games.
Yeah.
That's different. I mean, so I would say it's not quite like Philly, Atlanta, Philly, Toronto, those games like that. It's not quite like that. Even Philly, Boston last year. But the difference with all those games, they were all what? Game 7s. But this is right behind that because I still think at the end of the day, you put yourself in a situation that 3 of the games that you, maybe for the most part, the last 3 games that you lost, you could have or should have won at least one of them for sure, and maybe even 2 of them. You should have won. So at worst, we should be in the game 7.
Yeah.
So the fact that the way the games went and how we didn't kind of win the games we should have won, and how this wasn't at least a 7-game series and you lose on the road, that's what's most disappointing to me because game 2 was really the game. Like that was the game that was really going to decide whether this was a 7-game series. But you still had a game after Maxey helped you win in game 5. You got to come back and win game 6.
Yeah.
You got to win that game. And then at least take you back to game 7. And who knows how much pressure we already seen what pressure kind of did to them when at the end of game 5.
Yep.
So the fact that we couldn't get them back to game 7 on their court when all of a sudden they feeling that tight pressure as far as, man, we can't go out at home. But instead we got all that pressure and our pipes burst. So I would say it's disappointing. Not quite as disappointing as some of those other series that we've had in the last few years, but from that standpoint, to losing the first round in Game 6 at home, disappointing.
Yeah, I would put this up there with the Miami series from a couple years ago when Embiid came back with the mask on, because at that point the expectations were kind of lowered at that point, and that's kind of where I put it on par with that.
Yeah. It's rough. If you're comparing to previous years, last year was more disappointing. Because we were up 3-2 and we could have closed it out. We never had this series, right? So we had the Boston series, and then we lost 2 straight and got blown out. And just blown out the last game with that's what makes that way worse. Worse than the 3-2 is the manner in which we lost the last game. That was like gutless last year. We just gave up in that game and got killed.
Yeah.
That was completely gutless. I mean, we couldn't get rebounds and some of that's somewhat excusable, but to get blown out after having that series up 3-2, that was bad, right? Miami, what was worse about that is that we also lost Game 6 at home to get booted. That's not good. But we lost every game that series. We only lost 1 by single digits. The rest of the games were 14, 16, 35. I mean, my goodness. And then the last one we lost 9. We had a claw and fight to lose by 9. That's rough about that one. And then the one prior, the Atlanta one, I think that goes, forget about having the series. We had 2 or 3 games where we were 20-something points against an inferior opponent and lost. One of those at home. 2 of those at home, right? Yeah, 2 of those. So and if you're going by expectations on those seasons, I think this was our lowest expectation of all of those. Partly because the Embiid injury, we didn't go all in on the moves. Kind of like not that I want to agree with Pat Bev, but what he said was true. The moves we made were not all in moves because we were hoping for the salary cap plan in the offseason, which we're about to come up on. So from management on down, this wasn't an all in year. Right? We weren't expecting to go all the way. We want to. Everyone wants to. But we weren't actively aiming for that based on the moves we were making, right? So I'm disappointed, but based on expectation, we're the 7th seed at the end of the day, right? The other difference is it's cool that we get to see what a season – how do I want to put this? Without Embiid would be if he gets to come back by the playoffs, right? Because he was out for extended period. He came back after surgery, and then we're the 7th seed. So, in the future, if they want to say, hey, Joel, we want to go the Kawhi Raptor route and, just rest you throughout the season with a good plan. You play 2, you rest 1. You play 2, you rest 1. Preventatively. Don't even wait for an injury to happen. Don't wait for your knee to swell up. Let's just say it's load management and rest you. And we'll take the seeding as it comes. Because I'd rather, and I'm sure that the coaching staff and management would rather have a well-rested, healthy Joel and be the 7th seed rather than a just coming off meniscus surgery and be the 7th seed. Because the time off is time off, right? I mean, whether he's out with a meniscus injury or whether he's out because we rested him 40 games, 30 games, we're still going to be the 7th seed. I'd rather be healthy as a 7th seed at least. Because if you gave us a healthy Joel for this series, who knows? But he still balled out. I don't want to take that away from him. He's still, considering what he was dealing with, my goodness. But yeah, it's we got to see certain things as almost an experimental type season. It just kind of sacrificed, even though they don't want to say it was a punt season. We talked about this way earlier in the year. It kind of was, right? But yeah, disappointed, but it doesn't reach the other levels of the other seasons, in my opinion.
Yeah. And also, too, yeah, with compared to the other seasons, this is the lowest seed we've been all throughout the other seasons. We've the Miami season, we weren't a 7 seed. I mean, this is the lowest we've been as far as seeding wise. So obviously, expectations will be a little bit lower. Are you checking that up, Teja? I'm pretty sure we were never a 7 seed.
Oh no, I'm not. But it was the first season since the.
That's what we were, because we.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we had never been. I mean, it was we were in the play-in, so that kind of tells us we were in the play-in game. I know that hasn't been there the whole time, but the fact that we were there and where we were before pre-Joel injury kind of tells you that the expectations kind of fell from there because we kind of seen where it went, how it went south.
Yeah. First year since the bubble, though, we didn't get out of the first round. That part's pretty bad because all the other years you're talking about, they're second round losses. So that also plays into it too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but most of those times we had home court advantage too.
Yes. Yeah.
That matters.
For sure.
Yeah, we could have stole that. Game 2, man. Game 2 hurts the most.
We also didn't have a hostile home crowd either.
Yeah, that's true. So going to our next topic here. So Embiid and Maxey, they both, a lot of people were saying that. I think Tim Bontemps reported after Game 5 that Embiid, for the first time in a while, that he actually feels like he has a co-star that he can coexist with, and kind of he sees a future with Maxey after the heroics, the late game heroics that Maxey had in Game 5. Going into the offseason and what you saw from this postseason, what are some things you think Embiid and Maxey can take away from this past postseason?
I think their chemistry is good. I mean, so there's no questioning that part of it. We just have to get them, Joel to play, and the more they play together, I think that chemistry will grow even more. So I'm not disappointed in. Basically, I'm encouraged on their chemistry. We just don't know how the pieces around them are going to look. But their chemistry, I'm fine with going forward. I mean, people could get into who's 1, who's 2. I don't really get into that. I mean, Joel before pre-injury was 34-point scorer. So that should tell you it's just about getting them healthy, being able to stay on the court, and Maxey continuing to grow. And I like their chemistry. Now we just got to see like I said, what else is going to be the plan.
What would you have Maxey or Embiid work on in the offseason? I know you talked about the mid-range action, Eric, but would that be the main thing you'd want Maxey to kind of work on this?
I mean, I want to see Joel. I want to see Joel down on the block more. Even while injured, the Knicks had no answers for him down low. No answers, and that's where he was getting double teamed. They had zero answers for him. So I would love to see him down there more. But like I tell you, that's hard. That's a grind. And as far as Maxey, at the in-between game, I mean, 3 is working, speed and finishing at the rim, but that in-between game is where I think he can take his game to another level and even build more on his efficiency.
Yeah. My big takeaway from Embiid is I think it was maybe the best playoffs he's had. Even injured. He adjusted really well, and that was a really good defensive team. And Mitchell Robinson is a very good big man defender. Even if he was injured, they're both injured, so it's a wash. He adjusted really well. He was effective, even though you could clearly see he wasn't healthy and he wasn't conditioned. I think he's at a point now, he cut down on the turnovers, but the growth he's had in the last couple of seasons from when Miami was throwing the kitchen sink at him, It's incredible. I think he's learned so much. I think he's learned to rely on teammates, and he has one in particular that he knows he can lean on. He doesn't have to put it on him. He doesn't have to press and force everything. I would just say for next season, health in the playoffs is most important. That's it. I think that needs to become the main point of emphasis for Joel. Just refining and getting better at the things he's already good at. He's already one of the best in the league, right? So, just keeping healthy, man. Just monitoring that. That needs to be his number one concern. Conditioned and healthy come playoff time. Maxey, I think we talked about it earlier. On top of the mid-range game, which I think he can hit the mid-range too. I've seen it. He does it really well. I think he needs to go to it a little more often. But also what we talked about earlier, the playing through the contact. Like, if you're playing a game and you're through quarter 2 and they're not blowing the whistle on that layup when you throw your arms up, cut it out. Just play through it and just try to score. You're not getting the call. It's just not happening, right? Like, you can't keep waiting for that call to come. And I feel like him and even Nurse talked about it too. Like, he played 4 quarters of this and he never came. Like, it's not coming. 3 quarters, it's not coming. It's not going to come all of a sudden. So play through it. Like you said, shoot, then fall. Don't fall while shooting. I think that needs to become another thing to get a little stronger and just try to play through that contact as much as possible and try to hit the bucket. Don't just rely on the whistle. That would be my 2 things to take away. But again, Maxey, obviously, most improved player. His growth is incredible. I think he's going the right direction, and he has got that mentality, right? And he loves the game. So it's all there. At this point, you're just adding to your arsenal. You're not trying to, change, reinvent the wheel for him. You just add it to the arsenal and play through contact. Get stronger.
Based on what we've seen from Maxey in years past, I think he's going to take what he learned from this series and apply it. He probably started today, to be quite honest with you. He was probably in the weight room right after the press conferences last night. But so going to the final topic here. So Nick Nurse opened his presser last night by saying, because they asked him what he told the team, he said he's proud of them because the way they fought. I mean, beginning of that game, down 22, 11-33. I mean, that looked like it was going like years past. I feel that's a team that just folds right there. And we fought back. And I remember his first press conference, his introductory press conference, he said that his biggest goal this year, no matter who the opponent was, no matter what the situation was, he wanted people to leave the arena knowing and feeling that the guys fought. And I feel like last night we lost. I'm not trying to do the moral victory thing, but we were down 22 to start that game out, and we came back. We added some new things. We put Buddy Hield in the game finally, as Eric said to do 2 games ago. We put Buddy Hield back in the game. Buddy Hield gave us a spark. He was a warm body, provided something, as Nick Nurse said. But we talked last year. I think we looked back at our show from last year, and I saw that we had the whole thing about Giannis' step to success. That the season was a step to success, and I wanted to ask you guys from top to bottom, based on the salary cap plan, based on everything the Sixers had going into this season, was this season a success or a failure as a whole? If you take everything into account, not just the winning aspect of it.
Say it again. Actually, I kind of lost you. What'd you say? What's your question?
Overall, was the a season a success or a failure if you take everything into account?
I would say it was, if I had to choose between the two, I would lean more towards failure than success. And the reason I would say that is, yes, Joel got hurt, but our record and our play while he was injured really put us in a worse situation. So that's probably where I lean it, because it was, we were tied. We could have easily been the 5th seed if we'd have won one more game.
I know.
And we had to end the season on a winning streak just to get where we were, 7th place instead of 8.
9 games in a row.
Yeah, so we had to get there just to get the 7. So we won one more game, and in that hole when he's out. We're a 5th seed and we're playing Orlando, or we a couple games and we could be the 4th seed. Like, that stuff matters. Like, it matters. But I would say it's closer to that than success, because we had the pieces to win. We were playing well. We had ourselves in a good situation, and collectively we didn't get it done. So Joel didn't miss the season. He missed some time, but he didn't miss the season. So we should have been able to maintain some more stability during that time, and we didn't. So that's why you were 7th seed, and now we're out the playoffs.
What about Professor Snow? What would you give a letter grade?
What do you mean?
Like A, B, C.
A letter grade?
D, F. What would you give a grade?
I would give him a C minus.
Okay.
C minus.
Yeah.
C minus.
That's fair. I mean, not getting out of the first round, it's a failure. I mean, playing the 2 seed, whatnot. If we start before we started the year, I said we're playing the Knicks in the first round and we lose. Not knowing seeding, not knowing anything else, you call that a failure. I mean, I think we'd all agree on that. Forget about everything else, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, like, flat out. Like, I mean, like, we're going by NBA, just like this is what your end of season is. There were very winnable games down the stretch that we should have had. Hopefully, with the retooling we have in the offseason, we don't just completely break and fall apart the moment Joel goes out. Hopefully, we're closer to a 500 team. If you give us a 40% record without him, we're like a 4th or 5th seed at that point. We might even have home court as a 4 seed or a 3, maybe even a 3 seed. Like,
yeah.
Our record without him was so bad. I mean, I forgot what we did. We did that at one point. It was the worst it's been since process years. That cannot happen again. So, I give it, I'd be along lines here. I'll give it a C, just because. Forget about the beginning of the season. I ask you that question. If we just say, hey, Joel, if I also said, hey, Joel misses 2 months with the meniscus and comes back right before the playoffs and we play the Knicks, then I'm like, ooh, I change that a little bit, right? So I think what also hurts is that we saw glimpses of what a better team we are. The top end talent, like how close every game was. We were up by double digits in every game. We evaporated their leads in seconds. We just didn't have everything there. And what's frustrating is that, man, all these games came down to friggin' offensive rebounds for the Knicks. Like, we talked about this after we won. Not the Maxey one, though. The other game. I forgot what game that was. Game 3, right? Yeah, game 3. Like, we won that game by single digits, right? And we beat them by a good amount on their offensive rebounds. If they just got 2 or 3 more, that would have been another last-second finish again. Maybe they would have won that game. So we got to see what getting offensive rebounds gives us. Even matching them, we're losing by 1. But when you lose by an average like 4 to 8 every game, dude, I remember that first quarter yesterday, they said they had 8 chances at 8 more shots than we did. That's a lot. Like, they just got so many. You don't have to even, if you're getting that many more shots than the other team, you don't have to even shoot well. You can shoot 30%, and that's like 6 more points a quarter. So you don't have to, you can shoot terrible all game. If you get 15 to 20 more shots than the other team, you're gonna win. So yeah, I'd give it a C. I don't think our expectations were that high, especially given what happened during the season. So I can't give it a worse grade than that. But losing the first round bumps it down from a good grade. But hey, it's encouraging, and the clean cap sheet, and the fact that I think part of the reason why there's a lot of optimism is that we know for a fact we're not just going to run it back with something that just didn't work this year. I think that's part of it. We know we got 2 guys or maybe 3 on the books next year. And other than that, it's going to be a very different, I think, roster.
I would say as far as obviously, it's a failure from what we wanted from the beginning of the season. We wanted a, championship contending team. But I would say with the whole Harden, getting out of the whole Harden mess, clearing the cap space for next year is obviously that's what we want going forward. That's what the whole plan's been, to kind of have this clear cap space for this offseason. And the big thing for me is that we know we have that other guy with Maxey. He took that step that everybody wanted him to take. And I mean, it's pretty clear after this series that he is that other guy to Embiid. And I think knowing that we at least have Embiid and Maxey going into the offseason, I think that's what's huge for me. And then now, hopefully we can try to recruit guys to come over. So.
Yep. That's the positive. That's what makes it easier to swallow.
Yep. So that's where my optimism comes from. But yeah, I do agree. I would say if I give it a letter grade, I would give it a C. I would agree with you guys there.
But Embiid also did say in the presser, he's tired of having a completely different roster every year. So one more time, buddy. We'll run it back one more time. One more time with a new roster, because that's what you're probably going to get.
He did say in that presser, though, he said, I don't know what the front office is going to do, but we have lots of cap space and a lot of draft picks. And we have me and we have the franchise and Tyrese Maxey. So it should be
wink, wink. Make some moves.
Yeah, he said they have the opportunity to do something good, is what his quote was. Yeah. So it'll be a fun offseason. For this show, I know it sucks that we're going to the offseason a little earlier than last year, but a couple weeks earlier than last year. But it's gonna be a fun offseason on the show, at least. There's gonna be rumors galore, Eric.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna see. I mean, we know it's gonna be some changes and some guys added, but it's arguably the biggest summer we've had in a very, very long time.
Oh yeah. Would you say there's I guess we could talk. Yeah, you know what? We'll get all the offseason stuff next week. I was gonna say, start comparing it to other off seasons we've had.
Yeah.
And the rumors already began. Brian Windhorst was dropping names earlier this morning on ESPN. Can't wait to get into all this stuff next week. And obviously, with it being the offseason, we're going to go back to going.
We'll find out.
Yeah, for sure. And we're going to be going back to going to one show a week since the offseason is going to be coming here. So no longer 2 shows till next year, till the season begins, but one show a week during the offseason. So. Yeah, so for all our viewers, for all you guys who stay with us throughout the entire year, obviously it wasn't the way we wanted to work out in the end, but, you still have us every week to talk about all the rumors and news going on in the Sixers world. So we'll see you guys next week.